Whispers of Vålva, Oracles and Fate. In the Viking Age. Block 1. Shadows in the Longhouse. Crime scene or magic. The air hangs thick with the scent of peat smoke and salted cod, curling like serpents from the central hearth. Flickering torchlight dances across timber walls etched with runes, casting long shadows that twist like forgotten fates. It's the dead of a Greenland winter, around the year 1000, and in this dim longhouse, a figure emerges from the gloom. Thorbjorg the Vålva. Cloaked in a blue mantle fringed with white fur, she moves with deliberate grace. Her staff, carved from ironwood, topped with a gleaming brass knob, tapping the earthen floor like a judge's gavel. Young maidens, their voices a haunting chorus, chant the Vardlokker, songs that weave through the room like threads of the Norns. The settlers huddle close, faces gaunt from famine, eyes wide with desperate hope. Thorbjorg seats herself on a high platform, her catskin gloves glinting as she scatters offerings into the fire, dried henbane seeds that pop and release a sweet, acrid haze. I'm here piecing this together centuries later, a skeptic with a notebook and a flashlight, sifting through the sagas like evidence at a cold case. Were these Vålvas true conduits to the gods, whispering secrets from the unseen world? Or were they cunning manipulators, spinning illusions to bend the will of kings and common folk alike? In Eric the Red saga, this very ritual unfolds in a starving colony where crops fail and livestock wither under endless ice. The fate of an entire settlement teeters on one woman's words, a prophecy that could rally them to endure or doom them to despair. But here's the hook. This wasn't fairy tale sorcery. The Vålva's magic, a potent brew of chemistry, psychology, and social engineering, as real as the frostbite nipping at your fingers. What if the whispers that saved Greenland were no divine intervention, but a masterful hack of the human mind? Let's dig deeper. Block 2. Bearers of the Staff. Profile of the suspects. The word Vålva itself whispers of power. Rooted in Old Norse, it derives from volur, meaning wand or staff, a tool not for leaning on in frailty, but for commanding the threads of destiny. Picture it, a rod of iron or bone, etched with symbols of the 9 worlds, gripped by a woman who walked the fjords unchained by marriage or kin. These weren't hearth-bound wives spinning wool. Vålvas were wanderers, invited to feasts yet feared like storms on the sea. Society revered them, yet trembled. High status came with paradox. Honored as seers, shunned as outsiders. They traveled alone, fed at the high table, paid in silver and shelter. Independent in an age when women were property. Why? Their prophecies could sway raids or marriages, turning the tide of feuds. Compare this to the typical Viking woman, bound by the domstol's rigid laws, managing hall and loom. The Vålva transcended that, a figure above the hearth smoke, her independence, a quiet rebellion. Visually, she was unmistakable, a walking emblem of the arcane. Her hood of lambskin draped like a shroud, edged in silk from distant trades. Cat fur mittens, symbols of feline cunning, covered hands that stirred potions. A pouch at her belt jingled with amulets. Falcon feathers for vision, bone beads for binding souls. This wasn't mere attire, it was theater, a uniform to instill awe and authority from the moment she crossed the threshold. As a skeptic, I see the costume's cunning design, colors, and textures chosen to mesmerize in firelight, evoking the wild north. But was it all show? Did this garb cloak real power, or just amplify a woman's voice in a man's world? The evidence mounts. Let's examine the ritual at its core. Block 3, Anatomy of Trance, the mechanics of cider. The longhouse falls silent, save for the crackle of flames. Thorbjorg ascends her seidjalar, a raised seat woven from willow, isolating her like a throne above the fray. The Vardlakur begins, low chants from the maidens, rhythmic as ocean waves crashing on black rocks. Drums pulse beneath, a heartbeat syncing with the crowd's own. The air thickens with incense, burning herbs that sting the eyes, blur the edges of reality. She sways, eyes rolling back, staff raised as if pulling threads from the void. This is cedar, the art of fate-weaving, trance-induced prophecy that could foretell victory or ruin. Trace the psychoactive thread, henbane seeds, those tiny black harbingers from the saga's hints, ground and inhaled. Hyoscyamine and scopolamine flood the system. Pupils dilate like midnight skies. Visions bloom in hallucinatory fire. The body lifts in euphoria. A sensation of flight over fjords, whispers from the dead echoing in the mind. Other plants join the mix. Mugwort for dreams, fly agaric mushrooms for otherworldly glimpses. Not fantasy, but botany's dark alchemy, turning the seer into a vessel or victim of altered scars. The chorus amplifies it, young girls, untainted by worldly ties, sing in harmony, their voices layering soundscapes that drown out doubt. High pitches pierce, lows rumble like thunder gods. This isn't mere accompaniment, it's sensory overload, priming the brain for surrender. From a skeptic's lens, strip away the myth. Rhythmic repetition induces trance via entrainment, syncing brainwaves to theta states where suggestibility peaks. Sensory deprivation in the smoke-filled hall heightens it. Eyes strained, ears attuned only to the chant. No gods required, just neuroscience avant la lettre. And the prophecies? Delivered in vague, soothing bursts. The ice will break. Green shoots rise if you heed the old ways. Classic Barnum effect. Statements broad enough to fit any fate, yet comforting in crisis. They calmed the fearful, unified the tribe. But how did we know this wasn't saga embellishment? Archaeology holds the key. What if the bones don't lie? Block 4. Material evidence, excavations. At Firkat sagas are stories, spun by skalds around mead halls. But facts? They lie buried, waiting for the spade. Shift to Firkat, Denmark's Viking ring fortress, circa 980 AD. In Grave 4, unearthed in the 1950s, we find her, a woman of 35, laid with honors in a coffin of oak. No warrior's sword, but tools of the trade. A 6-inch iron staff, bent at the tip like a hook for snaring souls. Beside it, a wooden box, its contents screaming sorceress, bone needles for stitching charms, a bronze cauldron fragment stained with herbal residue. The smoking gun, a leather pouch clutched in her skeletal hand, spilling henbane seeds, carbon-dated, unmistakable. Thousands of them, enough for rituals that could fog a longhouse. This isn't coincidence. It's proof of the psychoactive core, bridging tale to truth. Oddities abound. A silver ring on her toe, not finger. perhaps to anchor her spirit in walk between worlds, owl pellets nearby, regurgitated bones of mice and voles, symbols of night wisdom or tools for reading omens in entrails. Small animal bones carved with runes suggest divinations from the wild. These finds shatter the monkish dismissal of sagas as pagan lies. Here in the dirt of Jutland, a Vålva's life materializes, not myth, but a practiced craft. Her power wasn't ethereal, it was tangible, rooted in earth and herb. Yet why did men fear this so? The gender taboo runs deeper, twisting even the gods. Block 5 taboo and power. Why Odin was a woman. Satyr wasn't neutral magic. It reeked of ergi, unmanly sorcery, a slur that could strip a warrior of honor. For Viking men, to weave fates smacked of effeminacy, passive yielding to unseen forces. Women, though, embodied it, Vålvas as natural channels, their cider, a feminine domain of intuition over brute strength. Enter Odin, the Allfather, who shattered the mold. In the sagas, he hangs on Yggdrasil, sacrifices, eye for wisdom, then masters cedar from Freyja herself, donning her cloak, staff in hand. Why? Knowledge trumped taboo for the god-king. His womanly arts won wars and runes. Echoes of shamanic traditions worldwide, where gender fluidity unlocks the spirit realm. Socially, Vålvas filled a void. Therapists in a brutal age, easing famine fears or battle dread with prophecies that restored order. Their words quelled riots, advised jarls on alliances, real political clout, veiled in mysticism. In uncertain times, they managed the collective psyche, turning panic to purpose. Women wielding such sway? It upended the patriarchy, making them indispensable shadows behind thrones. Power like that endures scrutiny. But as Christianity dawned, what became of these seers? Block 6, the last prophecy, the skeptic's verdict. Twilight fell on the old ways with the cross. By the 11th century, missionaries branded Vålvas as devil's consorts, once revered oracles twisted into witches, burned or banished. Sagas, penned by Christian scribes, preserved them in diluted form, their magic sanitized or scorned. Echoes linger in Scandinavian folklore. The wise woman by the fire. In modern neo-paganism, Vålvas inspire rituals worldwide. Their staff became the witch's broom, fate threads, the tarot. My verdict, after sifting saga and soil, no spirits commune through them. Vålvas were no mediums to gods, but acute readers of human frailty. Psychologists avant la lettre, hacking fears and hopes with trance, herb and honed empathy. In Scandinavia's harsh cradle, they were the first professionals of the mind, masters of the collective unconscious. Admire them not as magicians, but as survivors, women who whispered fate into control, their legacy as enduring as the northern lights.